The state of New York football is a national embarrassment. We'll talk about that. Plus, Stephon Diggs done for the year. What will the Texans do? And the Colts are making a quarterback change. That and more. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Here we go. Welcome in another episode of the Jake Asman Football Show presented by my friends at BetUS. If you are someone who is planning to bet on any of the NFL games this upcoming week, or really any sport at any time, including the World Series later tonight, Game 4, as the Yankees will try and avoid being swept by the Dodgers, you could do so with BetUS and use the promo code YouTube150 and take advantage of a 150% sign-up bonus. Shout out to BetUS for being a part of the Jake Asman Football Show. I want to tee off on the state of New York football, because last night, as I'm watching game number 3 of the World Series, I also had the New York Giant game on against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the state of New York football has never been worse. And I don't see any signs of it getting any better. Because think about it. The New York Giants entered this year with Daniel Jones at quarterback. And I always believed their ceiling would be limited with him because he's not any good. And I thought, okay, well, the Jets at least have what I thought was a good football team that added Aaron Rodgers to it. They won 7 games without him last year. Well, the Jets, even if they're not going to win the Super Bowl, they're at least in the mix to be a playoff team. They could go from 7-10 without Rodgers to with Rodgers 10-7 at the bare minimum. Well, the Jets are 2-6. The Giants are 2-6. And New York football has never been more bleak. And if you think about it, both teams appear to be headed for a rebuild or a type of retool. If you're the Jets, they have some talent that will be here next year, but they're going to have a new quarterback in all likelihood, a new coach, a new GM. The Giants, I think, will have the same coach and GM, but they're going to start over and finally draft a quarterback. They basically tried to this past offseason, if you watched Hard Knocks, and they couldn't get the right deal they wanted that they felt comfortable moving up and taking. So the Giants are going to have a new quarterback. The Jets likely will too. When does this end for New York football? I mean, think about it. Since the Giants won the Super Bowl in the 2011 season, they have made the playoffs just once. Actually, I take it back. We'll give them more credit. They made the playoffs twice. 2016 and during the 2022 season. This is the New York Giants we're talking about. The Jets, on the other hand, have not made the playoffs since 2010. So from 2010 to now, we're talking about two franchises that share a stadium that have 2 total playoff appearances. MetLife Stadium opened for the 2010 season. There's been one playoff game ever played there. It was the Giants during their Super Bowl season in 2011. They beat the Falcons in the wild card round. The Jets have never played a playoff game at MetLife. The Jets have not won a division title since 2002. You know, if you think about it, has there ever been a sports town that has it this bad with 2 of their teams? And look, not many towns have multiple teams. You know, New York is very unique in that there's 2 football, 2 baseball, 2 basketball, if you count the Brooklyn Nets, 3 hockey, if you count the Devils. So I understand that. But man, it has never been this bad to be a New York football fan. At least the Yankees are in the World Series. The Mets had a surprising year and ended in the NLCS. The Knicks are really good. But man, New York football just continues to be awful. And really, yeah, the Giants made the playoffs in 2016, but they got bounced right away in the wild card round. And 2 years ago, they made the playoffs with Daniel Jones, but you could argue that actually was the worst thing to happen to them because then they had to commit to Daniel Jones for another 2 years. And if you remember, that Giants team that won a playoff game against the Vikings, they weren't that good. They won a lot of tight one-score games. They got some lucky bounces. They took advantage, give them credit. But since then, it's kind of set them back. I mean, I was going through some numbers here, right? Looking at the state of the Giants in particular, coming off their game last night. The New York Giants, in the first 8 games of the year, since 2017, Here's their record: 1-7, 1-7, 2-6, 1-7, 2-6, 6-2. That was the playoff year. And by the way, they went from 6-2, they nearly collapsed, and they finished 9-7-1 that year. 2-6, 2-6. So every year, the last 8 years, besides 2022, the Giants' season is basically over at the midway point. Now, it's not much better for the Jets, but a couple of years ago, the Jets, they were 6-3, 7-4. The Jets, even last year, after losing Aaron Rodgers, they were 4-3 before it fell apart. And this year, the Jets, we know, are a big disaster. They're 2-6, just like the Giants. But I bring up the Giants because it feels like every year their season is over before it really gets started. And that happened again this year. And John Mara, the owner of the Giants, said that he expects significant improvement this year. Well, they won 6 games last year. So what's significant improvement? 7, 8, 9? Like, they were never going to win that many games with this quarterback. I've never been a Daniel Jones believer. At best, he's a game manager. At best. He's more of a long-term backup. And we will never see a quarterback like Daniel Jones again get this many opportunities. He has started 2-6 or worse in 5 of his 6 years as a starter. He's had one season of 20-plus touchdown passes. His career record is 24, 42, and 1. In prime time, he's 1-15. It was free money last night on BetUS, betting against the Giants. In fact, I went 2-1 with our picks against Cole Thompson this week, and one of my games I won was picking against the Giants and betting the Patriots to cover against the Jets, and the Jets lost to them outright. New England won the game outright. And one final point with Daniel Jones, 0 passing touchdowns in 6 straight home games. I mean, it's terrible if you're a New York football fan, whether you're a Jet or a Giant fan. It is god awful. But when does it get better? Because both teams might have a rookie quarterback starting for them next year. Even if Rodgers comes back for the Jets, he'll be 41, and you're no longer operating like you're all in the win around him. It's, hey, you're under contract. You could play, but we're going to draft your replacement. We have to. And for the Giants, there's no chance Daniel Jones is on this team next year. They could get out of his contract. It was really a 2-year deal, even though it was a 4-year deal with limited dead cap. And they'll move on, and they'll finally draft the quarterback. And the only question is, how bad does the Giants season get? Where is John Mara? I know we came out last week and said, we're not making any changes to Brian Dable or Joe Shane. But you say that now in October, you finish with 4 or 5 wins, things change. So I think the Jets are going to have a new GM, a new head coach. And I think it's possible the Giants will too. We'll see. It has never been worse if you're a New York football fan. Seriously. And the one common denominator in all this is poor hires by these owners, especially with the Jets. At least John Mara has shown you that you can win championships with him. He had the right people running his operation. He had Jerry Reese and he had Tom Coughlin. And really, the Giants' downfall started when they got rid of Coughlin. There was a playoff appearance with McAdoo in year 1. He didn't even make it through year 2. Dable made the playoffs his first year. But that to me was more of a mirage. And I don't even think Dable's a bad coach. I think he has a terrible quarterback situation. But man, it has never been worse to be a New York football fan. Now, some other notes I want to hit on here on the Jake Asman Football Show. And if you're an NFL fan, we talk NFL twice a week on this channel, in addition to what I do covering the Jets on a day in, day out basis. So make sure you subscribe to the show, to the channel. If you haven't done so already, we are nearing 40,000 subscribers. So please click that subscribe button if you haven't done so. Texans play the Jets on Thursday Night Football, and their worst fears about Stephon Diggs have come to life. The non-contact knee injury he suffered against the Colts on Sunday is a torn ACL, and his season is over. And this is a huge blow for Houston. Their offense does not look right this year. I know the Texans are 6-2, but they only have a +8 point differential. CJ Stroud has not been as good this year as he was last year as a rookie. They've had some issues with their offensive line. And look, they're finding ways to win games, which is the goal. They're winning a lot of tight one-score games, which is what you have to do in today's NFL. But I look at this Texans team at 6-2. I don't think they're as good as the record. And now Nico Collins is still on IR. so he won't play this week. You're down Diggs this week. You still should be able to beat the Jets because the Jets are, as we just opened the show discussing, are a dumpster fire right now. But if I'm the Houston Texans, I'm making calls around the league to try and find another wide receiver because I think you got to go out there and surround C.J. Stroud with as much talent as possible. Ironically enough, I'd call the Jets and see if they'd flip you Mike Williams, who seems to be available. And people might think this is crazy, but if the Jets lose on Thursday and they're 2-7, if you're Houston, why wouldn't you call about Devontae Adams? Basically, Devontae Adams would be like Mike Piazza going to the Marlins after being traded, then being traded again to the Mets. For those who remember that. He had a quick pit stop in New York, wanted to play with his buddy Aaron. He realized the Jets are shot. They're not going anywhere. Go give him a chance to ring chase with C.J. Stroud in Houston. Dumb idea or not, I mean, that's what I would do if I'm the Houston Texans. I'll call. But they definitely got to get someone because losing Diggs is a big blow. He's having a really nice season for them. He's a good football player. And from a, human standpoint, he's 30 years old, now dealing with this injury. He was about to be a free agent. That's tough. This guy's been a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's been an absolute beast. But that's a big blow for Houston. I'd call around the league. You just saw Deontay Johnson get traded again today. So that's what I would do. But it's bad right now, man. It is bad. That's a tough blow for Houston. They should still win Thursday, but, believe it or not, if you go to BetUS right now, you'll see the New York Jets are actually a favorite in this game, which is crazy. BetUS, thank you to them for sponsoring today's show. Make sure you guys use promo code YouTube150 and start betting with them today. Some other topics I want to hit on here on the Jake Asman Football Show. The Colts are benching Anthony Richardson, and they're going to start Joe Flacco. You know what's amazing about this, right? Anyone who follows the draft, like I have the last couple of years, and I especially followed the Anthony Richardson year because I was in Houston doing afternoon drive on ESPN Houston. We covered the Texans, obviously, every day. They had the second pick in the draft, and the big debate was, who should they take at quarterback? They wanted Bryce Young. Don't let anyone tell you differently. They tried to, in fact, trade up to number 1 with Carolina, then with Chicago after the Bears made the move, or the Bears traded their pick to Carolina. They had talks with both Carolina and talks with Chicago that year to get Bryce Young. Ultimately, they couldn't get him. So they luck, if you will, into C.J. Stroud, which is insane. Must be nice. But the other debate that year is, well, what about Anthony Richardson? Right? There were 3 guys taken in that first round. Will Levis went early in the second round. And anyone who followed the draft, anyone who paid any sort of attention to that quarterback class, knew the biggest thing we all said, or the pundits said, I should say, is that this guy needed time to develop when he came out of college, that he had all the physical traits, the athleticism, the arm strength. We all saw it, but he needed time. He was raw. Florida fans were telling you he was a wild card. He was a loose cannon. We joked on the radio in Houston, all aboard the A train, Anthony Richardson. And I played train sound effects on the radio because it was fun. So the fact that they are benching him now tells you all you need to know about how wrong the Colts were to play him in the first place. He should have sat and developed. He looked raw last year before he got hurt. Now he comes back, and his completion percentage is in the 40s. He's awful. And yeah, he's a great athlete. So was Tim Tebow. He doesn't look like a quarterback when you watch Anthony Richardson. It's amazing the Colts have been able to kind of turn things around, but that's because they were winning some games with Joe Flacco, who's better than Anthony Richardson. We saw what Flacco did last year in Cleveland. And of course, this is not a Jet show, but of course, Flacco will now play quarterback for the Colts against the Jets in a game on Sunday Night Football in 2 weeks. That game should not be in prime time. They should flex it out, but you know it's going to stay in prime time, and it's going to be the whole world mocking the Jets as they lose to Flacco in prime time. I can already see it now. Disgusting. But that's in a couple of weeks. I'll worry about it then. But it's amazing. This was such a predictable result. Anyone who covers the draft or followed the draft knew AR needed time to develop. They play him, and now he's not ready. And you can't say, well, they put him in a bad situation. He has a decent defense, an offensive-minded head coach, a Pro Bowl running back in Jonathan Taylor. He's got some good receivers. And Flacco has clearly outplayed him. So it's on Anthony Richardson. He wasn't ready to play, and they jettisoned him out there, and he wasn't ready. And now they're jettisoning him to the bench. Crazy. And you understand why the Colts are doing it. Here are the AFC standings right now. Indy's 4-4. And have you seen the standings for the wild card? They're right there. I still think Houston will win the division. But Indy could be a wild card. Look at some of these teams that are going to be competing for wild card spots. First off, the entire AFC East, besides the Bills, is not any good. So there's only probably one team getting a playoff spot from the AFC East. The South, why can't the Colts get a wild card spot? Jacksonville stinks. Tennessee stinks. You look at the AFC West, Chargers are good. Denver's good, but I don't love their quarterback. I don't think Bo Nix is great. He's played a little better of late. The AFC North, Pittsburgh's going to be there no matter what. They are every year. And they're 6-2 now. Cincy's right there because of Burrow. I'm not buying the Browns, but Jameis Winston makes them a little more interesting. So if you're the Colts, I get it. You can't throw away a chance to be in the playoffs when last year you were one win away from being a playoff team. You could have won your division last year. That AFC South was decided on the final game of the season, a Saturday night primetime game in Indy. And Stroud and the Texans went in there and won. So if you're the Colts and you see Flacco gives you a better chance to win, yeah, you took Anthony Richardson high, but you can't squander a playoff opportunity. So I get why they're doing it. But, man, everyone who followed this knew Anthony Richardson needed time. And they threw him out there. Crazy. Crazy. But that's the NFL, man. It's always something. Yeah, you look at this league right now. In a quote-unquote down year for the Chiefs, they're still undefeated. Ridiculous. But to me, the best team in the NFL is not the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs have earned the right to still be number one in any power rating you want to bring up. But as far as just what my eyes are telling me from watching the league this year, the best team in the NFL to me is the Detroit Lions. And it's wild to say that, but they've earned it. They are 6-1. They've won 5 straight. Even with the Aiden Hutchinson injury, I still think they're the best team in the league. And maybe they go out there and add, a pass rusher to their defense before the trade deadline on November 5th. I think they're the best team in football. And look, it doesn't matter if they're the best team in football now. It just matters come playoff time how they're playing. But this, to me, is the best chance for the Lions to get to a Super Bowl. I know, Jaden Daniels has the commies at 6-2, but he's still a rookie. I don't buy it. Philadelphia is a flawed 5-2 when I watch them. Give them credit, they're winning. I don't trust any team in the NFC South. Tampa's 4-4, Atlanta 5-3. I don't love either. You look at the NFC West, I know the Niners are 4-4, but they have a lot of injuries. I just don't know if it's their year to overcome it. I think this is the best chance Detroit will have to get to the Super Bowl for the first time ever. Remember, Detroit's championships happened pre-Super Bowl era. They were NFL titles. So if I was predicting a Super Bowl right now, and look, things change, injuries happen, I would probably go with Lions and Chiefs. And I was going to say the Ravens, but then the Ravens just lost to the Browns. And look, they're 5-3. They're okay. Lamar's still obviously an MVP candidate. But it's tough to pick against the Chiefs until you see someone actually beat them. But I look at the Lions right now, and I think they're the best team in the league. They have the best record in the conference. And I know Green Bay is really good, but Jordan Love being banged up concerns me a little bit. And we'll see. Those two teams will play one another. We'll have a better idea. And I know Minnesota's got something going on too, right? They were undefeated at first, but now they've lost 2 in a row. I'm not burying them. I just think Detroit's better. And Detroit just beat Minnesota, so I feel comfortable saying that. And that's a look around the league here on the Jake Asman Football Show. Comments, questions, any super chats, we'll cut the line here as we talk all things NFL. Matthew says, mark my words, Ravens never win a championship with Lamar. I wouldn't say never. You knock on the door enough, eventually you can break through. Dano says, how about Russell Wilson, though? He threw some decent balls. He did. He looked pretty good last night, but I'm just not sold on Russ. Give credit to Tomlin, though. He took a lot of heat for that quarterback decision. That's why he's Mike Tomlin and we're not. They're 2-0 with Russ. Obviously, he thinks he gives him a higher ceiling than Fields would have because the record was fine, and Fields wasn't playing great, but he was playing well enough for you to be 4-2. And they benched him for us, and it's worked. They're 2-0. Now it helps when you play the Jets and the Giants, who stink, as we open the show. Disgusting, but still. Disinfo, Flacco versus Rodgers, the Senior Bowl. That's funny. I mean, last year, Joe Flacco played great against the Jets. A lot of it was yak and poor tackling by the Jets, but still, we beat them on a Thursday night. Ed says, you're going to the ultimate nightmare on Thursday. I guess, but the Jets can't really hurt me anymore because I don't think they're going to win. They win, great. They lose, whatever. I'm going there to hang out with the Asmaniacs who are making the trip. Matthew says, watch if Brian Dable gets fired, Belichick replaces him. Belichick has never lost his soft spot for the Giants. So ironic that he lost to them twice in the Super Bowl. I can see it. I definitely could see it. I think Dable is not going to get fired, though. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. Gustavo with a super chat here. First one of the show. Thank you, Gustavo. Rob Ryan to the New York Jets head coach. You mean Rob Ryan or Rex Ryan? If we're going to bring back any Ryan brother, it should be Rex. Dano says, dress for a funeral since it's a blackout anyway. Yeah. Oh, the Jets are being dressed for a funeral. Oscar says, hit the milk thumbs for Jake. That's right. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Dano, Steelers fans were calling for Mike Tomlin's head a year ago. Yeah, I mean, I think every team is so tunnel vision towards theirs, they lose sight of what they have. Any Steeler fan who doesn't want Mike Tomlin to be your head coach, come back to us. The guy wins every year. I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl in a while, but come on, man. You're in the mix every year, despite never having an elite quarterback. He hasn't had an elite quarterback since Big Ben retired. In the last couple of years of Big Ben, he wasn't the same Big Ben that's going to the Hall of Fame. Dante with a super chat. Todd Monken is a head coaching candidate for the Jets. Yeah, I think he definitely should get an interview. Definitely. We'll see. We have a lot of coaching candidates to break down because it certainly feels like it's headed that way if you're a Jet fan. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Jake Asman Football Show. I want to thank again BetUS for being our sponsor. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day. We're back on Friday with Cole Thompson in his normal spot on the show. We'll continue to preview the Week 9 slate, react to the aftermath of this Thursday game between the Jets and the Bills, and make more weekly picks against the spread. Both Cole and I went 2-1 this past week. So if you've been following our bets, you've been making money. So we've been doing pretty good, especially me of late. I had a slow start, but the last couple of weeks I've been red hot. So it's been awesome. For those of you seeking the Jet Show, it will be live at 4 p.m. Eastern with Andrew Fialco. Looking forward to that one. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. And, of course, like and subscribe on your way out of here. See ya.